Tonight on Cronkite News, what Arizona's U.S. senators say about President Trump's proposed cuts to Medicaid and how it could impact citizens of our state.
Plus, a new bill that would change the way pharmacies operate, allowing them to do more than just distribute medication.
And GCU women's basketball is headed to the NCAA tournament for the first time ever. Hear from the Lopes on what it means to the program. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Leah Phillips.
And I'm Matt Ross. Thank you for joining us.
Republicans are under pressure to move forward with President Donald Trump's tax cut agenda.
Republican senators have had discussions on whether or not to overhaul the Medicaid health insurance program for low-income Americans.
Cronkite News reporter Leslie Chapman was at a town hall today hosted by Democratic Senators Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego. They talked about how this could impact millions of Arizonans.
Senators Kelly and Gallego addressed a large crowd of concerned citizens who are worried about a potential cut to a program that helps thousands of Arizonans with affordable health care. And while no cuts have been made, Senators Kelly and Gallego tried to listen and encourage citizens to speak out.
The thing we're talking about today actually hasn't happened yet. And I wouldn't say it's guaranteed that it will. I would put it on the high probability list.
Both Kelly and Gallego reiterated that Republicans are aiming to make cuts to Medicare in order to provide tax cuts for billionaires.
All this stuff you're hearing every single day is so they can give a big giant tax cut to people who don't need a tax cut. We could raise the taxes of billionaires and they will still be billionaires.
I don't think they're dumb enough to go after Medicare, but I do think they're dumb enough to go after Medicaid.
In late February, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson suggested that as much as $50 billion a year in Medicaid waste, fraud, and abuse could be recouped.
Medicaid is hugely problematic because it has a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse. Everybody knows that. We all know it intuitively. Everybody is committed to preserving Medicare benefits for those who desperately need it and deserve it and qualify for it. What we're talking about is rooting out the fraud, waste, and abuse. And we want to make sure that illegal aliens who do not qualify are not on the rolls, and we know that they are in many places. We can achieve a lot of savings with that. We can eliminate all these fraudulent payments.
But Kelly and Gallego don't see it that way, saying that the Republicans' plan will have a major impact on Arizonans who will no longer be able to afford going to the doctor and end up going to the emergency room instead, driving up costs.
If we really valued, good access to public health care, this is where we'd be investing it, not necessarily on these billionaires that really don't need it. Won't even notice, by the way, this tax cut in the end.
Arizona Republican Representative Juan Ciscomani recently said in an interview with Arizona Public Media that he wants to protect programs like Medicare for the people who need it the most. But Ciscomani, like a lot of Republicans, says he wants to eliminate waste and abuse in government spending. In the newsroom, Leslie Chapman, Cronkite News.
The city of Scottsdale has cut funding for its Juneteenth celebrations, part of its plan to defund the DEI programs. The city has also stopped sponsoring business organizations for Black, Hispanic, and LGBTQ+ people. This comes after the DEI ban by the city council was approved early February. Another change, including removing references to Scottsdale for All from literature, social media, and websites.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration deported almost 240 alleged members of a Venezuelan gang known as Tren de Aragua to El Salvador. For the first time since World War II, President Trump has invoked the Alien Enemies Act in order to speed up the deportations. This comes after a federal judge has tried to block the administration from using the 18th century law. Earlier today, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, defended his use of the act.
We know TDA, based on a lot of evidence, are part of the Maduro regime through the military and law enforcement. They've infiltrated them, and look, they've invaded this country to unsettle this country, through whether it's through fentanyl killing thousands of Americans or through the violence they're perpetrating in our cities. The president did the right thing. I stand by it.
President Trump is also alleging that some of the pardons issued by former President Joe Biden were illegal. Through a social media post, the president claimed that because Biden used auto pen, some pardons are now, quote, void, vacant, and of no further force and effect, end quote. President Trump is questioning the legality of Biden's preemptive pardons for the House committee that investigated the January 6th Capitol riot. But according to the Department of Justice, a president does not have to physically sign a bill.
And back here in Arizona, your local pharmacy may be doing more than just administering medication soon. A new Senate bill may widen their scope to test and treat certain illnesses. Cronkite News reporter Isaiah Soto has more details on how this proposed bill is making headway in the legislature.
Pharmacies have changed the way they serve people. During COVID-19, they provided testing and vaccinations, but now pharmacists are seeking to do more in their scope of practice. Senate Bill 1214, known as the Test and Treat Bill, will allow pharmacists to test for certain illnesses and provide treatment.
Pharmacists have good medical training. We're not doctors, but we are able to do a lot with helping in the healthcare industry, and we just want to work our license to the best of our ability.
Pharmacists will be able to test for flu, Group A strep, SARS-CoV testing or other coronavirus respiratory illnesses, HIV pre- and post-exposure, or a condition related to an emerging or existing public health threat. The Arizona Pharmacy Association stated that pharmacists are underutilized and could alleviate the strain of urgent cares and hospitals.
The idea here is that someone could visit a pharmacy and get access to care much faster than if they were to go to a traditional urgent care or doctor's office or hospital system where the system may be overloaded.
Opponents of the bill are concerned about the necessary medical training required to properly evaluate an ill person.
It is fine to test, it is fine to treat, but there's more to an evaluation than just testing and treating. Clinical assessment is important, and that requirement, I think, should be looked at with the Board of Medical Examiners.
The Arizona Medical Association is concerned about adding responsibilities to pharmacists and interrupting their current job duties.
When you move a new duty to somebody, it potentially threatens their ability to take care of their core functions. I personally already have long wait times at pharmacies to pick up prescriptions, and I think there's a lot that these folks are doing already, a lot that pharmacy techs are doing already, and I'm not sure the time is now to be pushing more duties onto them.
Arizona has a significant shortage of primary care doctors, especially in rural communities, according to Cicero Institute. Committee members and proposers of the bill stated that this change could help offer services where medical resources are limited.
I think that this is an innovative way to address some of the shortages, especially in rural areas.
This new bill would not require pharmacies to implement the test and treat option, but leave it to their discretion if they choose to participate. In Phoenix, Isaiah Soto, Cronkite News.
The bill was recently amended to change the minimum age for treatment from 6 years old to 12 years old. Coming up next, an art form that is dividing a city.
Solutions to tagging that leaves officials and locals in disagreement.
Graffiti means to the city a freedom of expression, and also it can also mean a voice and like a rebellion at the same time.
Come back, find out how the city of Los Angeles is trying to combat graffiti.
Plus, after a week of stormy weather all across Arizona, it looks like things will be heating up here in the valley. Join us after the break for the full weather forecast.
I grew up in a small border town, and water was really important to us. Without enough water, we can't farm, we can't eat, we can't live. And the way we're doing it right now, straight up doesn't have a future. I went to ASU because this is a place where you solve problems. With vertical farming, we can grow the same amount of food with 95% less water than traditional farming. The work I'm doing at ASU is changing the way I look at the world.
The scientists and engineers that support the next mission to Mars could be in this class.
Getting a degree at ASU is a journey that can take you anywhere. Into a world of groundbreaking technology and renowned award-winning faculty. Professors who help you to impact the world. Whether you're on campus or at home, becoming your best starts with learning from the best.
When I was younger, there were no engineers around me, so I had to become my own role model. At ASU, I wasn't just learning to be an engineer, I was actually engineering. And graduating, I already had real-world jobs lined up. Before ASU, my goal was to be a strong, confident woman. And when I left, I became a strong, confident engineer.
For many cities, graffiti is a challenge that is a difficult task to tackle.
In Los Angeles, Zach Bradshaw found that solutions to tagging have divided some locals and officials.
From the low corners next to sidewalks, to the high walls above stores,
to all the way up there, graffiti has become one of the defining qualities of LA. But some locals and city officials say it's just a little too much.
many representatives across LA have made efforts to remove graffiti. The Office of the City Clerk offers up to $2,000 to those who help identify or convict those who tag. And the LA Police Department has set up a gang and narcotics division with a graffiti task force. Another solution has been partnering with local nonprofits like the Koreatown Youth and Community Center, which works to cover up graffiti with paint around the city.
I feel like pride probably doesn't encompass it. We feel almost like a true responsibility to provide this resource to the community.
Despite the efforts, graffiti removal rates have stayed largely consistent since 2018, with around 300,000 requests for removal per year. Tags like this one make it clear that lots of graffiti is tied to political unrest.
It's just getting worse, like as the time goes by, especially because of the politics. And I don't know, it's stressful really to see so many people out there needing help, basically trying to like catch up. It's always a catching up thing every single day. Every single day, it's nonstop.
The city is also trying to make an impact by commissioning local artists to paint murals. Councilwoman Heather Hutt says the city is dedicating resources to fund those efforts to discourage graffiti. But while the city covers up many tagged services, some locals see it as an attack on the qualities that make LA so unique.
Graffiti means to the city a freedom of expression, and also it can also mean a voice and like a rebellion at the same time.
In February, Southgate community allocated thousands of dollars toward graffiti abatement, but the effectiveness of these efforts and efforts of neighboring communities remains to be seen. In Los Angeles, Zach Bradshaw, Cronkite News.
Thanks, Zach. And in consumer news, Harvard announced they will be offering free tuition to students whose annual household income is $200,000 or less. The decision was made to help diversify the school through financial aid. This comes after the Supreme Court ruled to ban the use of racial preferences in college admissions. Previously, Harvard offered free tuition to students whose household annual income was less than $85,000 a year. The University of Pennsylvania and MIT will be joining Harvard's income cap for the coming fall semester.
The latest retail report from the Commerce Department has came in lower than expected. While retail sales have been up since January, there was only a 0.2% increase. Retail experts are claiming consumers are being more cautious with their spending habits.
And we might be able to start seeing some warmer weather here in the Valley.
That's right, the perfect time to go shopping for some spring cleaning supplies.
Harrison Hassan joins us now from the desk to give us a look at what we can expect for the rest of the week.
Thanks, Leah, and a happy St. Patrick's Day to you all. Warm temperatures today, and let's take a look at it as we head into the night. Highs today reaching around the 70s. As you can see right now, 77 degrees. It's going to dip down to 70 degrees at around 10 o'clock. And as you can see here, 6-mile-per-hour wind. So definitely breezy as you head into the night. Your lows tonight, speaking of which, Window Rock 17, Holbrook 23, Flagstaff 18, frigid across high country and cool in the south, especially the southeast corner. Tucson 39, Tombstone 32, Douglas out here 27 degrees. Your highs on Tuesday afternoon, pretty cool in the northern part. Flagstaff 40, Grand Canyon 41. A little bit better out here though. Quartzsite 72, Yuma 76. Back here in the valley 72 degrees. Here's your future cast for the coming days. This is what it looks like overnight. You can see some splotches of wintry mix and some rain in the north of Flagstaff. That's part of a trough that is bringing in a lot of winds and some precipitation to State 48. That's going to funnel out and it's going to lead to some more precipitation overall but it will be a bright, sunshiny day on Wednesday. Here's your 8-day forecast here in the Valley: 72 on Tuesday and 81 on Thursday. And then after that, the high pressure system takes over. 93 on Monday, 96 on Tuesday. Quintessential spring weather here in the Valley. This is Mihir Hassan from the Cronkite News Weather Center. Back to you.
And coming up next, Diana Taurasi has officially called it quits after 20 seasons in the WNBA.
Even though she won't be on the court anymore, her impact on the game of basketball will last forever.
You know, it's the game that I played since I was 7. It's all the things that in life I always loved to do, and I was to play the game of basketball.
The Mercury held a press conference for Taurasi last week. Stay tuned to find out what else she had to say in her farewell.
In a small border town, and water was really important to us. Without enough water, we can't farm, we can't eat, we can't live. And the way we're doing it right now, straight up doesn't have a future. I went to ASU because this is a place where you solve problems. With vertical farming, we can grow the same amount of food with 95% less water than traditional farming. The work I'm doing at ASU is changing the way I look at the world.
The scientists and engineers that support the next mission to Mars could be in this class.
Getting a degree at ASU is a journey that can take you anywhere. Into a world of groundbreaking technology and renowned award-winning faculty. Professors who help you to impact the world. Whether you're on campus or at home, becoming your best starts with learning from the best.
When I was younger, there were no engineers around me, so I had to become my own role model. At ASU, I wasn't just learning to be an engineer, I was actually engineering. And graduating, I already had real-world jobs lined up. Before ASU, my goal was to be a strong, confident woman. And when I left, I became a strong, confident engineer.
Good evening and welcome to the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Max Cepeda. For the first time in school history, the Lopes are going dancing as Grand Canyon women's basketball punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament on Saturday in Las Vegas. And head coach Molly Miller couldn't be happier.
So proud of everyone else buying into what we do. I mean, we painted this town purple. Las Vegas!
After claiming the WAC tournament championship on Saturday, GCU Women's Hoops is heading to the NCAA tournament for the first time in program history. And our Cronkite News reporter Mihir Hassan was at the team's watch party for the selection show and has more on what the opportunity means for the Lopes.
13 seed Grand
For GCU women's basketball, it's time for their one shining moment.
It's surreal, you know, because you kind of reflect on the body of work that you've done up until this point. It's a lot of hard work and unseen hours and dedication.
After going unbeaten in conference play and winning the WAC, the Lopes are going dancing for the first time in program history. Their first stop, Waco, Texas, to take on the Baylor Bears. Uncharted waters for Molly Miller and crew, but they're ready for the challenge as they head east.
They do a really good job at offensive execution. They've got the defensive complement to go with it. So my assistant already sent me a brief scouting report. So if you can imagine that, we're going to get to work and put together a good game plan.
GCU struggled early against UT Arlington in the final, but it emerged victorious 65-62 and are the 13th seed in the Spokane 1 region. The players then watched the men's team beat Utah Valley in its championship game.
We literally got back at 5 a.m., so we're kind of running off sleep right now. But yeah, we're excited, a lot of emotions, a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but you know, we're on the upside right now.
And this veteran Lopes team will look to keep that upside as they start the dance.
No matter how it goes for us individually, I think just being able to be there as seniors and being there to uplift each other, that keeps us motivated and persevering, like able to persevere to the game.
In Phoenix, Mihir Hassan, Cronkite News.
Here multitasking for us, the winner of Friday's clash between the Lopes and the 4th seed Baylor Bears will face either the number 12 seed Ball State or number 5 Ole Miss in the round of 32 on Sunday. And the women's team wasn't the only team celebrating on Sunday, as the GCU men's basketball team also found out their spot in the NCAA tournament field. Men's head coach Bryce Drew elaborated on what this meant for the school and what they can expect in the round of 64.
But I think really cool for our school, to have both programs, represented in the NCAA tournament. They're top 10 in the country in defense, or top 30 in offense, and a really good team. They have a lottery pick, and they have one of the best point guards in the country. So they have a lot of really good pieces.
Now, the Lopes aren't the only Arizona team heading to the men's big dance. The Arizona Wildcats also made the cut. And although the schools were placed in different regions, both of their journeys to the Final Four start this Friday in Seattle. And you can catch the 13th ranked Lopes take on number 4 Maryland early in the afternoon, and later watch number 4 Arizona face number 13 Akron. The game should make a great start to what should be an spectacular March Madness weekend. And hockey is alive more than ever in the Valley, with the Sun Devils hosting their first ever conference tournament series at Mullet Arena as the newest member of the NCHC. Fans packed Mullet Arena to hype up the Sun Devils, led by head coach and ASU alumni Greg Powers. And what a show they got. The Sun Devils played a scrappy series against the Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs, barely outscoring them 4-3 in Game 1 on Friday night, followed by a thrilling overtime goal by Ryan Kerwin to secure Game 2 by a score of 6-5 to complete the sweep of the Bulldogs. Powers was pleased with the team's performance on the ice over the weekend as they moved their attention to the Frozen face-off.
When you grind as much as we have, to build for moments like this, it's you have to reflect, and it's one of those moments I think that I'll have to watch the video to really embrace it.
And the Sun Devils will look to embrace this new moment indeed this weekend when they head up to St. Paul, Minnesota to take on the Denver University Pioneers on Friday at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on CBS Sports Network. And finally tonight, after 20 years in the WNBA, Diana Taurasi announced her retirement last month and held her official farewell press conference last week. For more on Taurasi's decision, we send it downstairs to Sammy Califf in the Cronkite Sports Bureau. Sammy?
Last week, Taurasi spoke locally for the first time about stepping away from the game. I was there for what was an emotional moment. After 20 years with the Phoenix Mercury in what was one of the greatest careers of all time, Diana Taurasi arrived in style for her retirement press conference. A hero's welcome for the Mercury legend as she, along with her family, waltzed through the team's practice facility with boisterous fans cheering them on.
After the season ended, I really wanted to take some time away and really think about what I wanted to do. And then Feb came. I knew in my heart that I didn't have it in me to put that, 4-month preparation that I usually do going into a season. I just didn't have that in me anymore.
Reminiscing about her incredible career, Taurasi made one thing clear. It was all about earning the respect of the Phoenix Mercury fans, the women's basketball community, and of course, winning.
At the end of the day, I did everything because I wanted to win. I wanted to compete and I wanted to win. I didn't do it for, a little bit of fame, a little bit of money. I didn't do it for any of that. I did it literally to win and have the respect of the people around me.
DT's retirement will take time for many fans to process, but Taurasi's 7-year-old son Leo had a question surrounding the magnitude of the word retirement.
Last week we got on a plane to New York, and as we're getting on the plane, Leo says, "Is retirement sad?" And that was the longest 4-hour plane ride to New York ever. I am sad. It's the game that I played since I was 7. It's all the things that in life I always loved to do, and that was to play the game of basketball.
With Diana Taurasi riding off into the sunset, this will be the first time in 20 years that she won't be the face of the team. As for the Mercury, they have already begun the process of trading for new players to move past the Taurasi era. It will be interesting to see how Phoenix will fare without Taurasi at the helm. From the Cronkite Sports Bureau, I'm Sammy Califf. Max, back to you in the studio.
Thanks so much, Sammy. And that's all for tonight's Cronkite Sports Report. Matt and Leah, back to you.
And coming up next, you may have noticed the world is looking a little bit more green today than usual.
And it's not just because spring is right around the corner. That's right, St. Patrick's Day is here. Join us after the break to see how people around the world are celebrating this year.
When I was younger, there were no engineers around me. So I had to become my own role model. At ASU, I wasn't just learning to be an engineer, I was actually engineering. And graduating, I already had real-world jobs lined up. Before ASU, my goal was to be a strong, confident woman. And when I left, I became a strong, confident engineer.
Innovation at the Walter Cronkite School is pushing the boundaries of traditional journalism.
Storytelling has evolved over the years. This is part of that evolution.
Students in the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab are using emerging technology to create scenes in augmented and virtual reality, coding playable games, and bringing the audience into the story.
They're only limited by their imagination and their willingness to learn.
Find out more at cronkite.asu.edu.
Welcome back. People all around the world celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
And 2025 is no different than usual. New York held their 264th annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. It is the country's largest and lasted 5 hours with millions watching in person. Chicago held their own parade over the weekend, but of course they continued their 60-year-long tradition of dyeing their river bright green.
That's it for tonight's edition of Cronkite News. I'm Matt Ross.
And I'm Leah Phillips. Thank you for joining us.
Not the way I wanted that.